Hello and welcome to this quick start guide for Camera Flow Pro, where we're going to be jumping right in and getting started making some really cool camera moves. So here we have a rigid body physics object falling down the stairs. It's already been cached. Oh boy. So what would be really fun is to try to use Camera Flow Pro to follow that. I'm going to reset the rig as if it's been newly added, initialized, because when you add the sidebar plugin, you can initialize the rig, then that panel disappears and it shows up here as a rig that you can move. With the root controller, you can grab it and put it into position. That's the main purpose of the root lock rot scale item number 0, is to actually move your rig generally where you want to start your action viewing from. And then you're going to want to select your CFP camera, press Ctrl-0 on the number pad to make it the scene camera. And if you don't have a number pad, you can go to View, Cameras, Set Active Object as Camera. Now I'm going to select the subject, aim and focus. And with our subject selected, I'm going to hit Track. And with that, Camera Flow Pro auto tracks with smooth delayed follow the action that's happening. Well, what if you want to adjust the speed of the following of the track? Go to your track flow panel, go to main speed, and change it from 1 to, let's say, 0.5. Play back your animation from frame 1 and see how that affected it. Yeah, it's definitely slower. Slow it down even more to get more of a dramatic. See, that's extremely slow. So now you know how to adjust your main speed of the following. What if you want the camera to actually move along with the object? Well, there's a couple of different relations here. Parent is more for if you want something to control not only the general location of the camera, but also as the object rotates or scales, it's going to also affect the location of the camera. In this case, since this object spins so much, we're going to select the object and do copy location. Now it's going to smooth follow it and track. Now, something to keep in mind, when your following speed and your tracking speed are the same, you really don't notice because they're lined right up with the same delay. So in order to notice both of them, you're going to have to change the speeds of one or the other. So like if we say a slower follow, but a faster aim, we can do that. How about a slow follow of like 0.2? And the aim we're going to leave at 1.0 following speed. Flow speed. That is very interesting. Let me turn that down even more. Tracking, we're gonna do, what are we gonna do? Cool. So now it tracks and slow follows with a nice blend of the two that you can really notice the difference because we changed the speed of one and it gives it that time for the following to catch up. All right, so now that you know how to move and change your main speeds, what's next? We could go our cam flow and change that back to the default value by hovering over this and pressing backspace. Oh, this is a fun feature. So because we have these relations set up now, we can also do something. I'm going to go back to frame 1 and grab the flow controller for the camera location. We play back animation and move this. You can see how I can move the camera all around with that smooth following. So I can get some really dynamic shots, and I can record all of this to keyframes. So you can too. If you do auto keying right here, enable that in your timeline, go back to frame 1 with shift left arrow, playback animation, and grab that flow controller. We can record all of this to keyframes on top of the tracking and the copy location relations that we already have set up here. And what dynamic sweeping camera motions will you come up with? Super smooth. And I don't think we're going to have to do any cleanup animation because of how smooth that is. You can also change the speed because, again, the speed is a procedural thing built on top of the keyframes we laid down and the relations that we set up. So that can be tweaked again. Furthermore, you want to see how you can change your composition of your shot very quickly using the camera? I know I do. So if you select the camera, you can just rotate the camera. The way the rig is built, you can freely rotate it and change the composition just like that. And that will stay built on top of all the animation we've already put in place. In fact, just to give it a little more, I'm going to rotate around the Z, give it some Dutch tilt. Now I can really see the difference. And there you have it. Now you know how to change your composition by rotating your camera. And since we had auto keying enabled, it keyframed that at the first frame when we rotated it at the first frame. So by the end of the animation, or even throughout the animation, I'm going to play back with the space bar starting with frame 1. If you have any issues scrubbing, you're going to have to, I would recommend looking at my preferred workflows, the recommended workflows and the cautions there about scrubbing. I made a longer video about that. This video is not going to cover that, just it's going to go through the workflow that I use, and we'll just go from there. So the main rule of thumb is play back your animation from the start of whatever you've set keyframes or the start of your scene frames. Especially for using relations, you're going to want to start at the beginning of your scene frames every time if you're making tweaks along the way, and then pause with spacebar. So let's say at this point we wanted to set a keyframe, like rotate the camera and set another keyframe. I'm going to Dutch tilt it the other way and hold shift while I do that so it's a lot smoother. Boom. And so it set a keyframe for us. I'm going to press spacebar to continue the simulation. So again, I'm not scrubbing because of what I talked about in another video. I'm just using spacebar to start from the beginning and just pause and continue and pause and tweak the camera throughout. So at this point, it's best practice because it doesn't skip any of the geometry node simulations frames, and what you see is what you're going to get in the final animation. At this point, I think I'm going to clear rotation with Alt-R, so it just goes back to being center frame, and it's already set a keyframe for us because auto keying is on. So by the end of the frame, or the animation, just continue playback here. We could do that, and then I'm going to set a keyframe on the rotation here, go a few more keyframes down, pause it, and then rotate the camera back towards the stairs. And I've got it rotating around the cursor. I'm not going to do that. Medium point. Boom. Boom. And it inserted a keyframe because we have auto keying. All right. So let's see what we got. So Dutch tilt one way, Dutch tilt the other way, center frame, and by the end of the animation, it should look back to the stairs. Cool. And all of that is built on top of the smoothing and the motions that we did already. So that is one way that you can adjust your composition by animating the camera itself within the rig. But for now, I'm going to delete these keyframes, clear the rotation, and show you another way to offset your composition after you've already laid down keyframes. If you go to your cam flow panel, you'll see offsets. And you can move the camera with those values here. And we could even move to the other side of the staircase, flip the composition. We also have offsets for where the camera is tracking to. So if you go to track flow, you go to offsets, you can see the tracker out here is moving, thereby adjusting the composition so it can kind of have a little bit of a look ahead, giving more of the stairs in the shot if we want to. We can even combine that with some camera rotation if we need to. So rotation, Z, Z, give it some Dutch tilt. Because with offsets, you can't do rotations, but you can certainly use them both together. Let's see what we got. That's kind of cool. It didn't go through the stairs. Huh! Cool. Okay, so now you know how to build on top of using those camera keyframes and using, well, not keyframes this time, we just have a static rotation set. So it added one keyframe at the beginning, it's fine. But that is built on top of the offsets that we already put into place. And what's super cool about the offsets is you can even animate these. So for our camera location, for example, I could insert keyframes for that here. By the way, if you want to see your keyframes that you've laid down for your offsets, sorry, I'm in the way. If you want to see your keyframes, you got to disable that only selected, and then you'll see them under your Fmods cam lock right here. Very good. So again, spacebar from the frame one is going to show you your preview accurately. You could pause it and modify our camera location this way. And it's already laid down keyframes because of auto keying. Super cool. So we started on this side of the stairs and it's going to move to this other side because of our keyframing. And there you have it. Now you know you can keyframe your offsets, and you can reset them as well with hovering over and pressing backspace. Super cool, right? And so everything that you've built, you can just build on top of it with these extra features and get that extra control that you need. So I believe that about sums it up for this video. We talk about anchor points in another video and how those kind of interact with relations. You can see that video under the documentations section under recommended workflows. This video is going to be put in the quick start area of the documentation, and I hope it really helps you. Enjoy.